When trauma grows up too soon, recognizing complex PTSD in adolescence. Imagine a teenager who seems difficult. They snap at their parents. They isolate in their room. Their grades drop. They seem either numb or constantly on edge. Most people assume it's just adolescence, but sometimes what we are witnessing isn't rebellion. It's survival. Sometimes the behavior of a struggling teenager is actually the nervous system of a child who has learned to live in danger. And what we might be seeing are the early signs of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, often called CPTSD. My name is 𝗪𝗂𝘂𝗪𝗂𝘂, licensed clinical social worker. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Unlike single incident trauma, complex PTSD develops after prolonged exposure to relational trauma, chronic emotional neglect, psychological abuse, domestic violence, unstable caregiving, or repeated betrayal during development. Research in trauma, psychology, and developmental neuroscience shows that when a young brain grows up in a chronically unsafe environment, the stress response system becomes dysregulated. The adolescent's brain is not simply acting out. It is operating in a state of survival neurobiology. Yet these signs are frequently misunderstood as laziness, attitude problems, or bad behavior. And when trauma is misread as misbehavior, the suffering adolescent becomes even more isolated. Complex PTSD in adolescence often shows up in patterns that look confusing on the surface, but make perfect sense when viewed through the lens of the trauma. One common sign is emotional dysregulation. The teen may experience sudden anger, intense shame, panic, or emotional shutdown. This happens because trauma alters the balance between the brain threat detector, the amygdala, and the regulatory regions of the prefrontal cortex. Another signal is hypervigilance. The adolescent constantly scans for danger, interpreting neutral comments as criticism or ordinary conflicts as threat. Some teens develop dissociation, moments where they feel detached from their body, their surroundings, and even their own emotions. This is the nervous system emergency brake when overwhelming stress cannot be escaped. There can also be distorted self-identity. Adolescents with complex PTSD often internalize toxic beliefs such as, I am the problem, I am unlovable, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough, nothing will ever get better, I am the one who's at fault. These beliefs from after years of repeated invalidation or emotional harm. You might also see relationship difficulties. The teen may desperately crave connection while simultaneously pushing people away. Pattern trauma researchers describe as approach, avoidance, attachment, conflict. Other warning signs include chronic anxiety or depression, sleep disturbance and nightmares, difficulty concentrating in school, self-harm or risk-taking behaviors, extreme people-pleasing or fear of rejection, emotional numbness or withdrawal. None of these behaviors mean the adolescent is broken. They mean the adolescent adapted to survive. So recognizing complex PTSD in teenagers requires a shift in perspective. Instead of asking, what's wrong with this kid? Trauma-informed care asks a different question. What happened to them? What happened to this child? What happened to this adolescent? When parents, educators, and communities understand trauma, they can create an environment where healing becomes possible and being more empathetic and more compassionate. Consistently shows that adolescents recover best when they experience consistent safety, emotionally attuned relationships, and trauma-based therapies. A caring adult who listens without judgment can begin to rewire the nervous system that learned to expect danger. Because the most powerful antidote to developmental trauma is not punishment, it's safe connection. If you see these signs in a young person, don't dismiss them as teenage drama. You might be witnessing a nervous system asking for help, and recognizing that truth could be the first step in helping that adolescent finally feel safe enough to heal. And one of the things that I have found to be very helpful is a behavior management plan with very precise expectations, privileges, and being consistent with that behavior. Children need an environment in which they can feel like they have some control in it. Management plan is one that gives them the control. It's up to them, and they learn that it's up to me to actually have the privileges, or I can earn the consequences, or I can earn privileges. So it's really up to them, and they want that control. So having ADHD and complex PTSD for an adolescent, it would be very helpful to provide a very safe environment for them, and also a very consistent behavior management plan. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. And if you did, subscribe to my channel and hit the like button, and please leave a comment or two for me.